used to spit over crowds. I used to write you stories that don't amuse me now. We went a couple around. You're only up when I'm down. I used to think about you. You don't amuse me now. But isn't it cool to waste time and play it fast?
What's up? How's everybody doing today? So here I am in Kalama, Washington. And I'm at a little tiny cemetery in the middle of nowhere. And I'm here to visit the grave of Christian Brando. Now, if you're not aware of who Christian Brando is, the last name should be obvious to you. Marlon Brando's oldest son. And he moved up here to Washington in the final years of his life. And he's buried here, this tiny little cemetery. And I'm joined by a Washington native, right here beside me. This is Marie.
Hi.
Marie has her own YouTube channel as well, called
It's just Marie Winton.
Marie Winton,
Simple as
Winton.
Yep.
So we've been driving around the cemetery for a little bit so far, and it's a tiny cemetery, but it's a tough one to find. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about Christian Brando once we find the grave. So we're going to take a look around. This might take a while. For you, the viewer, it's going to be 2 seconds. For us,
20 minutes.
20 minutes is being, I don't know. This is tough, but we're going to take a look. And
You go that way, I'll go this way.
yeah, that's a good idea. Okay, we're going to take a look. All right, be right back. So I like to say after much searching, but it was actually, with the picture lined up, I had an idea of where it could be. And then the good luck charm that is Marie found it within 3 seconds. So here's the grave of Christian Brando. I'm going to tell you a little bit about him as well. Thank you, Marie.
Of course.
So it reads, "The mystery of love, the gift was you, Christian Brando. Thy light and thy truth, life is not forever, love is." May 11th, 1958 to January 26th, 2008. I'm not sure what that is, but that's very sad.
Uh-huh.
Wow, this is just right near Christian Brando's grave. Nicely decorated. So, Marie, what do you know about Christian Brando? Do you know anything about what happened in his life?
Not really.
Okay, well, I'll tell you.
Familiar with Marlon Brando.
You're right. Well, he was the oldest son. Marlon Brando, I believe, had 11 children. 11. Christian Brando, when he was young, he was kidnapped by his mother.
Wow.
And taken, I believe, I'm going to get some of these facts wrong, but I believe he was taken out of the country, somewhere down to Mexico, and he had to be either rescued or they found him, returned to Marlon Brando. Now, but what he's most famous for is a little scandalous. He was out to dinner with his half-sister, Cheyenne, one night in LA, and she said that her boyfriend or husband, Dag Drollet is the name, was abusing her. So Christian Brando went back to the house, confronted Dag Drollet. Dag Drollet ended up shot and killed. Now there's discrepancies in the story of if Christian Brando, he says it was in self-defense, the gun accidentally went off, but it was proven to be manslaughter. So he served 5 years in prison for manslaughter for killing Dag Drollet, his half-sister's boyfriend or husband, whatever he was at the time. What's also sad about the story is afterwards, I believe it was 4 years into his prison sentence, his sister Cheyenne took her own life. She was so depressed. So that's a very sad story. She was a very beautiful girl. Very, very tragic story. Marlon Brando was completely distraught over all of the events surrounding his kids. So Christian Brando had a troubled life. And I know there was drug abuse, alcohol addiction. And another thing about Christian Brando, which, and I hate it when I talk about negative things about people, but Christian Brando had some negative parts that happened in his life. It was linked with Bonnie Lee Blakely, which was Robert Blake's wife, who ended up murdered. Now, Robert Blake was acquitted on all charges. And then afterwards, evidence surfaced that Christian Brando, because he had a relationship with Bonnie Lee Blakely too, people say that he had her killed. That actually Christian Brando had Robert Blake's ex-wife killed. None of this is proven, all allegations. It's probably a case that will never be solved, the murder of Bonnie Lee Blakely. But Christian Brando's attached to that as well. But reading about Christian Brando, I've done a lot of reading. He moved up here to Washington to be a welder. And he had a house not too far from here. And from neighbor accounts and people that knew him say he was a very, very nice man. Very quiet, kept to himself, and wanted to just live a quiet life away from Hollywood finally. So that's why he moved up here. That's why his family had him buried here as well. So that's it from the Kalama Cemetery. It's a Canadian accent, I'm telling you. Thanks for joining me, Marie.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so that was interesting coming out here. I've always been fascinated by the story of Christian Brando. Something that's, when I was young, when I would read about it in magazines and stuff back in like late 80s, early 90s, I just found the whole thing so odd. That the son of when you have everything. But his parents' divorce, I know that it messed him up pretty big, and everything that happened to him as a child. So I guess it goes to show that even if you have all the money in the world and all the wealth in the world, like Marlon Brando's house on Mulholland Drive where Christian Brando lived I've been outside of it. The compound is incredible and it's huge. You would think if you have it all, you're gonna have a great life. But things happen. Yeah. So, from Kalama Cemetery in Kalama, peace out. So we thought the video was over, but we passed this pet cemetery and we both wanted to stop. I visit cemeteries all over the place. A pet cemetery, I've been to one before, and I'm such an animal lover that I'm getting emotional just looking at the graves. But I'm gonna show you around. It's just so sad when you lose a beloved pet. I've lost 3 in my life, and it's hard. It's exactly like losing a family member. Anybody who thinks differently hasn't lost a pet, because it's exactly like losing a family member. And what's so sad about losing a pet is they can't communicate to you. I mean, they can in a way, but you can't ask them what's wrong. You can't explain to them what's happening, and they're so helpless. When it's a human, they can tell you what's wrong. You can speak with them. You can say your goodbyes, and they understand maybe if it's a natural death, like type of thing, or like in a hospital or something. When it's a pet, you're helpless and they're helpless, and it just breaks my heart. So here, we're gonna take a look at the pet cemetery here in Kalama. Tippy Toes Hutton, 16 years old. Boo. That's so cute. Tippy Toes. How you doing with this? You're an animal lover too, big time.
It's nice that they have a place like this where you
Yeah.
can come.
In memory of my dog, rest in peace. Oh my. It's small. I mean, could be a few unmarked graves that we don't know about, but
Red flags.
yeah, you're right. The red flags where they're going to be, maybe something put up. In memory of Seymour, in memory of my kitty, in memory of my kitty. Even if you don't, maybe you didn't have the money to inscribe the name, there's something about the saying "my kitty" that's just as sad, because it's so personal. Like my kitty. I don't know. That's, or maybe that's how they want. Maybe they do have the money. I don't know. It's, but 16 years old here, could be a cat.
That's a long life.
Yeah, I mean, if it's a dog, that's a long life.
Yeah. I think the longest I had a pet was 13 years.
That's great.
Yeah. It's my beagle.
My first dog, 17, he lived to. And then my second dog, overlap with him, he lived to 19, almost 20. He was, and up until 6 months before he passed, he was still walking outside with me.
Holy smokes.
Yeah, we didn't go far. Wasn't long walks, but he was making it. Then he deteriorated fast, which was one of the hardest things I went through. And now you have how many pets?
Two.
Two. A
One
dog and a cat.
One cat, yeah. I think I've always had a cat.
I had one cat, but I was too young to remember. It's a beautiful spot.
Yeah.
It's gorgeous overlooking. The Pacific Northwest is just gorgeous here. Yeah, very peaceful. Okay, so just when we thought the video was over, we decided to stop here. But now the video is definitely over. Rest in peace to Christian Brando. Maybe odd that we included him in a video with a pet cemetery, but it's along the way. If you ever come out here, it's right on your right before the cemetery. Rest in peace, Christian Brando. It's a tough life he had. And rest in peace to all the little animals buried here. And that's it. We're gonna take off, we're gonna go somewhere else and film.